What's up, everyone? I'm Ryan from Fireside Yankees, and we've got you guys with a really fun mailbag episode. Now, not as many questions this time, but that's not your fault. It's mine, because I didn't tweet it until like 6 p.m. That's my bad. That's totally on me, on Ryan Garcia. Still getting used to this, but all on me. Blame it all on me. Point your fingers at me. But mailbag time, questions. We're going to give deeper answers to these questions because there's not as many. So, with that being said, I kind of hate delaying this. Let's just get right into this, and we're going to start, and we're going to lead off with the same person as we led off with last week, and that is my boy Carlos at Stegen Survivor on Twitter. How much can we buy in Anthony Volpe's offensive strides to start the season? My answer to that is I'm kind of all in. And the reason I'm all in is because I think that he's hitting the ball harder, and hitting the ball harder is the thing I have been begging for Anthony Volpe to do. He's making better swing decisions. He's actually cut down his swinging strike rate while increasing his fly ball rate. This isn't slap the ball around the field, Volpe. This isn't swing out of your shoes, Volpe. This is a blend of those two versions of Anthony Volpe. Now, should you buy into it to the point where you're like, all right, the guy's winning MVP? No. Should you buy into it to the point where it's like, all right, this guy's a top 5 player at the position? Again, no. But should you buy into it to the point where you think, hey, like, he's swinging the bat harder. He's been doing it since the postseason. He did it in spring training, and he's doing it in the regular season, and the results are there. I would say, like, look, projections have kind of moved towards, like, hey, consensus league average hitter. I think consensus league average hitter is where I stand right now. Like, I expect him to finish the year with, like, a 100 or 105 WRC plus, somewhere in that range, and I would be really happy with that, considering he's a plus defensive shortstop and will end the year a plus base runner as well. Anthony Volpe last year had a 3.4 FWAR and a 3-WAR year on Baseball Reference as well. He is someone who has been so much better than people give him credit for throughout his major league career. He's a great defensive player at a premium defensive position. It doesn't get much better than that on the defensive side of that. He's a good base runner, and finally, you may actually get a league average to above average version of Anthony Volpe at the plate. And that version of Anthony Volpe at the plate, coupled with the defensive base running, is like a 4 to 5 WAR player, and that is a really, really damn good outcome for someone who is entering their age 24 season and was a late first-round pick. So I buy into Anthony Volpe. I do. I believe this is the breakout. I think he's finally doing it. Hopefully this doesn't age poorly. Hopefully this isn't last year all over again. I buy into Anthony Volpe's breakout. Carlos, thank you for the question. Moving on, we've got from Zachary Goldstein at Zach Goldstein 24. Am I crazy for being disappointed with where this team is at organizationally and based on the offseason? I always feel like we're 1 or 2 moves away from winning it all, but those moves don't happen. We have great players, but I wish we would spend on the bat. So there are layers to this take. Now, I don't think I'm at the point where I'd say fully disappointed with the organization and the direction and where their team is at, and all that stuff. I think that they, had a draft where I'm really excited to see how these pitching prospects perform. The young players have been performing well, and that's a positive. And the team is underperforming in terms of how many wins they should have versus the actual win total they have. So am I disappointed with their results record-wise? Yes, because there are 2 games in there that they should have won. They should have swept the Pirates. They should have won that last game of the series, and they should have taken 2 of 3 from the Diamondbacks. So from that standpoint, yeah, I'm disappointed because they're 6-5 at the time of recording this, and in theory, they should be 8-3. That's where it's disappointing. But I don't feel like I'm looking at this and going, gosh, the next year of Yankee baseball is bleak, because I look at it and go, Ben Rice is pretty good, Austin Wells is pretty good, Anthony Volpe's pretty good, Jason Dominguez looks pretty good. That's 4 position players who are here for the next, 4 or 5 years. That's a win. That's 2 thumbs up. I'm really excited about that. They have prospects who aren't necessarily on the cusp of debuting, but, by this time next year should be at the point where we can talk about them as big league viable options, or in spring training can battle out for spots. That's exciting. And they have money coming off the books. There's some bad money coming off the books this winter, and next winter as well. So that's exciting. But there are things to be concerned about. Like, what if the young players don't play so well the rest of the year? What if injuries come up? What if Garrett Cole comes back and they're the same next year? What if Luis Seal comes back and his shoulder injury or lat injury clearly has an effect on his command? What if Clark Schmidt's consistent shoulder issues over the last year lead to a decrease in stuff and command? I mean, there are things that could go wrong that you kind of go, damn it, man. What if Fried gets hurt? What if Rodon gets hurt? Etc., etc. What if Will Warren never takes that step forward? What if he continues to be a really, really poor major league starter? Those are things that could also harm the outlook. So I think we're at an impasse. And in 2025, we're going to get the answers to a lot of questions that will make us feel good or bad about the Yankees moving forward. But I do agree that the Yankees as a whole are incomplete. Like, they don't have enough right-handed hitting. I don't think they rolled into the year with a third baseman. They don't have a third base plan. They patchworked it, and that's bad. And that is a problem. And the fact that that did happen is bad. So there's truth to this. I think there are some exaggerations or things I wouldn't go that far yet. But I think there are things to be excited about and to look forward to. So in a sense, Zachary, I don't think you're crazy. I just don't fully agree. And I think there's got to be a healthy space when we talk about baseball, we talk about sports, and talk about anything in general, where you could disagree on something rationally, where there's a rational argument to be made that isn't what you necessarily believe. So, Zachary, really good point. I'm sure there's some people watching this video who feel similar to how you do. And I don't want you guys to feel like idiots or feel like crazy pessimists. So, there's that. I know it's some fence sitter crap, but at the end of the day, most people agree on things more than they think in the sports world. Moving on, we've got a question from Anashi_Maps24, and this question asks, who are some position player and pitching prospects who can help out in the next year or two, and what would they need to do to get the call? So, first guy who comes to mind, Eric Reselman. Eric Reselman is a right-handed pitching prospect. He's a reliever. He is someone who has really good stuff, really good fastball, really good sweeper. The changeup, I feel like, is going to get better. Like, the changeup is pretty damn good specs-wise. Tons of vertical drop, tons of depth. Really well played off the fastball, and ultimately I think he will be a very productive major leaguer for a very long time if he can just stay healthy, which has been a problem for him. He has, I think, 55 innings thrown since being drafted, and he had just 50 innings under his belt before he was promoted to AAA. So he's someone who does not have a ton of pro experience. He's someone who has to stay healthy and stay on the mound, but I think he is a 2025 ETA guy. I think he will debut this season. Some other guys, Clayton Beeter technically is a prospect. I know, it's a little weird because, like, he's been around for a bit, and he's debuted already, but he is someone who I think will make an impact on this team. Then you've got Everson Pereira, who I think could come up and provide some at-bats. And another guy I'll throw out here is Jesus Rodriguez, and it's because he can play some third, catch, play some outfield. I don't know where he's going to stick, but the bat, he's on the 40-man roster, that hit tool, I kind of like the hit tool. I'm kind of like, Jesus Rodriguez could be a guy. Now, looking at some of the bigger names, like dudes where, like, you should know who they are. Cam Schlittler could start this year. He's got really good fastball velo, really good secondaries, has to kind of add something he can use against lefties, but for the most part, I feel good about his repertoire. The command needs some help. But again, like the foundation here is really strong. He's a highly rated prospect in the organization. The Yankees like him a lot. I'm really excited about where he's at. Brendan Beck was a second-round pick in 2021. He's finally back after just a slew of unfortunate elbow injuries. His stuff is not as good as Cam Schlittler's, but the secondaries are good. The command is good. He's someone who I think could kind of rise through this organization fairly quickly. I don't think it's going to take much time for him to be on a big league mound if he just stays healthy. Rafael Flores, big right-handed power, could help you this year, honestly, because he's got tons of right-handed pop. He's got tons of juice, tons of thump in that bat. He's someone who I don't think he's far away from being a big leaguer. I really don't. The bat is getting close to big league ready. The glove, not so much. And I think the Yankees are going to properly assess the situation as, hey, we shouldn't rush a guy who's a catching prospect and, ruin their defensive development when we already kind of have catchers. So there's that. That's kind of how I feel about the situation. Spencer Jones, I'm not sure how I feel about how MLB ready he's going to be in the near future. So, yeah. And some fun kind of outlier ones. Is George Lombard Jr. going to be ready in 2026? Maybe. I think Bryce Cunningham will be someone who's ready sooner than people think. And then I also think from the bullpen side of things, some more names. Kelly Austin and Harrison Cohen, I think, have almost big league level stuff. Command is the last thing you need to fine tune. So I hope that properly answered your question. A lot of guys threw out there, but if you want to have my 2 picks, I'm going to give 2 picks, 1 batter, 1 position, 1 pitcher. Rafael Flores this year, and Cam Schlittler this year. Those are the 2 guys. Those are the 2 guys where it's like, I feel like they can really help this team in the immediate future and bring skills that the team currently doesn't have as things stand. Now, moving on to our next question, we have at Drew Clugs. Drew asks, do the Yankees have a left-handed pitching problem, or will their woes go away when the weather warms up? Could it be both? There's some truth to both. I think the Yankees have a problem against left-handed pitching. I don't think the Yankees can hit left-handed pitching. I don't. I don't think they're going to be able to do it consistently. Do I think they're going to have like a negative 100 WRC plus? No. But do I think they're going to, be the best offensive baseball against lefties? Also no. So, that's where things can get a little bit tricky. I think ideally what you look for is just a right-handed bat who can play third. I think that's what you're looking for if you're the Yankees. So, it's a little bit tough because you also don't know what injuries pop up. You don't know where your team can get better. And I think that's it's hard to assess this early in the year, but I think I press that whole they can't hit lefties button in the winter, and I'm going to keep pressing it now. But it's not because Tariq School shut them down. It's because I just don't think they could do it. I didn't think they were going to be able to do it consistently before the year started. Why should 11 games change my opinion on that? So, yeah, there's that. Moving on to a question from at Dylan Hickey 99. He asks, who is your number 1 favorite pitching prospect and hitting prospect in the organization, and why? Oh, pitching wise, I'm going to go with Bryce Cunningham as my new favorite. Bryce Cunningham, it would have been Chase Hampton or Thatcher Hurd, but both of them got Tommy John surgery, so yeah. But Bryce Cunningham, his fastball is gorgeous. He's got a beautiful 95 mile per hour fastball, good vertical ride, tons of extension, a little bit of a lower release height than you would expect from someone at his height. He has a really, really good changeup from the right-handed side, which is very rare. He's got good velo on it. It's a power change. To go with that pitch, he's got a good slider. So I really love Bryce Cunningham. He's someone who I think could be a big leaguer very, very soon. He's got big league stuff. He just needs to work on his command. And I think that the Yankees will work their magic with him. He is someone who I think will be a top 100 prospect by season's end. He is a really, really, really talented pitcher. I could rave about him for hours. I will choose not to out of the respect of everyone's time. But on the hitting side, look, Rafael Flores has been a favorite for me. I think Rafael Flores' power is phenomenal. He is someone who matches up with Spencer Jones in terms of raw power, but he also has better zone contact rates, and he makes some really good swing decisions. So for me, Rafael Flores, he's got the results, he's got the talent level, he is someone who could be a very, very good player at that next level. But I don't want to get boring and mention him twice, because I mentioned him as both a guy who could help the team this year, and I'm now mentioning him as my favorite hitting prospect. I'll give you a different guy. I'll give you someone that people aren't thinking of, or maybe you are if you follow my Twitter enough, and that's Brendan Jones. I really like Brendan Jones. I like his approach. He's a high fly ball guy, but he makes a lot of contact, and he makes good swing decisions. He's off to a little bit of a slower start this year, but I think as he heats up, he's going to really get it going, and he's going to put himself in a situation where he's in Double-A, he's a fast riser, and he's putting pressure on the Yankees to figure out what his long-term role in the organization should look like, because, again, he's got good bat-to-ball skills, his bat speed's improved, his walk rates are really good, he's a great defensive outfielder, can play all 3 outfield spots, and he's a really, really good base runner. So I feel really good about Brendan Jones, and there are a lot of projection systems that do kind of look at Brendan Jones and go, hey, this guy could be a big leaguer down the road, which is kind of rare for a 12th round pick. He was selected 361st overall, and he's 5'10". Like, this is not a guy who, typically is going to fly up prospect or draft boards, but I like the bat to ball. I like what he can be. I think the upside here, and as a lefty, the pull fly ball rates, I think those things are going to really work in Yankee Stadium. And now for the last question, we've got from at underscore 24. Kin knows ball, and yes, Kin does know ball, guys. He asked, I know it's early, but if you could pick any realistic trade target for the Yankees to trade for, who would it be? Position player, pitcher, or both? On the pitching side, I'm going to just give it to you straight up. I really hope the Brewers are bad and that they trade Freddie Peralta. Or I really hope the Twins are bad and that they trade Pablo Lopez. Both those guys stand out to me as cost-controlled pitchers who Their ERAs are not the best in the world. Like, their ERAs are not top 5 or top 10 over the last 2 or 3 years, but I'd argue they're top 20 to 25 starters. And those are guys who can be the number 2 behind Max Fried and really stabilize that rotation. Now, if you ask me my preference, it's Pablo Lopez. Pablo Lopez is so underrated. 3.82 ERA, 3.51 FIP, 3.34 expected FIP over the last 3 years. All at the Minnesota Twins. There's been some chatter about, hey, are we going to trade him? Are we not going to trade him? He's one of the best starters in baseball, in my opinion. He strikes out so many guys. He is a guy who doesn't walk batters. He's a guy who's got good stuff plus and pitching plus scores. He just strikes me as such a darn good pitcher, and all I want is for the New York Yankees to have someone like him, right-handed, 95-mile-per-hour fastball. It's going to work in zone. Those things are valuable to me. So, at the end of the day, I just really believe in Pablo Lopez, so that's my pitching pick. If I could dream on anyone, the Twins are off to a bad start. I'm not rooting against the Twins or anything like that, but if I could pick someone, like hand pick, which is the situation proposed here, I'm picking Pablo Lopez, and I'm not really thinking twice about it. So Pablo Lopez, that's my pick. I hope he ends up a New York Yankee down the road, although there seems to be an injury delay in Minnesota. So he might be hurt, guys. He might be hurt, which would suck. And if he is, then, not great. But if he is, then Freddie Peralta, that's who I'd pick. So, yeah, he exited the start early. Not a good sign there, but either he or Freddie Peralta would be my picks. And Freddie Peralta, the Brewers have kind of picked things up, so not sure he's going to get traded, but if he does, that power fastball, man, it'll play at Yankee Stadium. Now, for the hitters, it's tough because the guys who I would have targeted in the offseason are guys that I don't know are going to be available at the deadline. So, for example, I know that I've talked about Alec Boehm. Is he going to be available? I still don't think he'd be available at the deadline. I don't think the Phillies are going to trade him unless he's really bad. And if he's really bad, why would the Yankees want him, right? So there's that. Matt Vierling, why would the Tigers trade him? I don't know. I'm trying to think of teams that are struggling. Look at the Twins, they're struggling. I like Willie Castro. I think he's a good full-time starter, but does he help the Yankees in their situation against left-handed pitching? Not really. And so you almost have to ask, is it doubling down a weakness? You could argue that. From the standpoint of just acquiring a right-handed hitter, it is so much easier said than done. I really do want to emphasize that for some reason, there just doesn't seem to be a lot of good right-handed infielders on the market. I guess if you just wanted to dream a little bit, yeah, Ozzie Albies. Not, the Braves are bad and that, they just have to do it. They have no choice. But I don't see that happening. So, yeah, it's slim pickings. It really is. You can dream on a Royce Lewis, but he's so injury prone. I don't know if that's happening. You could dream on a Brian Hayes. Maybe that's more realistic, but are the Pirates in a position to be trading young talent away, or should they be trying to maintain young right-handed talent on the offense side of the ball? Again, that's all up for people to decide. I'm not really sure. So on the position player side, an underwhelming answer here, but my answer is I'm not really sure. And on the pitching side, it's Pablo Lopez or Freddie Peralta. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. That is the end of our Yankees mailbag. We appreciate you guys checking out Fireside Yankees. If you want to be featured right here on FSY on Wednesdays, leave a reply on my mailbag tweets. I'll make sure to respond right here on the show. Thank you again so much for tuning in. Check us out on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, and of course this YouTube page. And check out EmpireSportsMedia.com for written coverage on all of your favorite New York sports teams. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Check out Fireside Yankees. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Love you guys so much, and peace out.
Perfect.